just give disclaimer since this is actual beyond the videos. We're dealing with some technical difficulties, so if things start crashing or looking a little crazy, fair warning. But super appreciate anyone that does watch the vid. And for this particular topic, man, this is something that I really been thinking about recently, and it's not just my own imagination. Salute to who's by? Oh yeah, this is by MSN.com. Should you tip on restaurant takeout or coffee order? Here's when it's okay to decline. So, the thing that I was thinking about recently is not super recently, but just in recent times. It seems like a lot more places are asking for tips than before. Like, maybe I thought I was thinking before. It used to be just like, obviously, when you go to a sit-down restaurant, they always ask. And then I feel as if it was just like, what restaurants were tipping before? Or how always tipping? It was like Hot Table and then like small local mom and pop stores. And Hot Table, for those who may not know, is it's basically a panini shop. But now, these days, you can go, no matter where you go to Five Guys, Panera, Subway, I'm not sure what other fast food chain restaurants. Everywhere you go, basically, they give you an option to tip. And I don't know if people in general are more, or I don't want to make myself seem like I'm generous. I always tip. No matter where I go, I just tip because I don't know, my brain, we're all just trying to earn dollar out here. So if I'm ordering from the establishment, I might as well give them a tip. But apparently, according to this article, some places, some even like retail shops, like imagine you you go to just a clothing store. Imagine you go to your Zoomies, your H&M, and they start asking you a tip. What are you gonna do? So we'll read a bit of this article. Honestly, it kind of sums it up. Just the dynamic these days that of this like tipping becoming more readily not readily available, like more of an option at all types of establishments before when it was just like when you're actually getting a dedicated service. But we'll read just a tad bit of it. Some people are experiencing. Dang, why does it look kind of crazy? Tipping fatigue, as more businesses request tips for more product and services, but customers are pushing back, even as some workers say they are relying on tips more than ever. Is it okay to simply not tip in some cases, even when you're asked to? Here's what experts say. So yes, you may not know, but they're actually tipping experts. Tipping culture appears to be spreading everywhere you look, and some customers are sick of it, wondering when it's okay to simply not tip. After all, these days, when you're making a purchase at a coffee shop, convenience store, or even self-checkout kiosk, you might be prompted on the checkout screen for a tip. While some customers might be ignoring these prompts in a bout of tipping fatigue, others might just be wondering what the unspoken rule is these days. Their frustration is clear. Roughly 59% of U.S. adults have a negative view of tipping, a decrease from 66% in 2023, and more than 1 in 3 think tipping culture has gotten out of control, according to a Bankrate survey from June. So, as you can see, tipping is definitely in more places, but it's making people get a little aggy about it. Like, at a certain point, when is it okay not to tip? So yeah, this article definitely goes into all that. They literally do bring in experts. They bring in people that have that. I think there was one guy that was like a New York, they were in New York and they're like an etiquette expert or something like that. And then there was somebody else that teaches like at a school. So yeah, definitely. This article.
Sorry, time out for 1 second.
This article kind of goes in depth. What's up?
What the hell is an etiquette expert, bro? Like, people actually have a job like this? And they're being consulted for articles like this? That's crazy to me.
Yeah, what's the problem? You can be an expert in anything. I'm an expert in everything, so what's the problem?
You can be an expert in stuff, but that doesn't mean you're going to get paid for it. Who's paying Mr. Manners for his expertise? That's what I want to know.
Well, if you have a question in etiquette, who are you going to go to? Or you have a question
Google.
in etiquette?
Literally look up.
Where do you think Google gets it? Where do you think Google gets it from?
I don't know, from a multitude of sources, most certainly not just one person like Mr. Manners.
The name is definitely kind of wild, but yeah, those sources are sometimes come from like actual factual people. So it is what it is. Anyway, I think there's always a conversation loosely based around tipping etiquette, what people's respective views on it. But I guess in relation to the fact that in this day and age, it seems like tipping is everywhere. I just kind of curious to know what you guys' current thoughts on the matter. Do you kind of feel like it's gone out of hand? Do you really not think about it? Are you inclined to stick with the modern day culture is, which I believe is 20%, but I think that might be different from your respective location. It's your thoughts on tipping in general, I suppose. Um, we'll start with you, Ace. What do you think?
Wait, am I muted or no?
No, you're definitely not muted.
Okay.
You sound even louder than before for some reason.
So my general thoughts on tipping are that I do it whenever prompted. And that's literally whenever.
No matter what
So
store, no matter what store you go to, even if you just literally
yep,
like got a cup of coffee.
yep. A good example is this concert. They ask for tips when you buy merchandise. I always tip there.
Oh,
What?
they had something about that in this article. Scroll down. Dang, real life example. Did you write this
Like if
article?
you're buying a shirt, they
Yeah,
just
yeah.
Yeah,
ask for a tip on top of you. What?
Yeah,
yeah.
go down.
Almost always.
Yeah, go down, go down. Yeah, yeah. Say you landed tickets. Why is the thing so choppy? I wonder if it's coming out choppy on YouTube. Check the YouTube real quick. Say you landed tickets to see the biggest concert of the year, and you want to buy $100 sweatshirt to commemorate the experience. You pay a visit to the stand selling concert merch, where the salesperson needs to pull down the sweatshirt you picked from the rack with a pole. When you go to checkout, the screen prompts you for a tip on the transaction. Customers who have never tipped before or never tipped for this type of transaction before might wonder if they should fork a few more dollars there. Farley, which is this specific person that's speaking on tipping, said that even in these types of scenarios, customers are not expected to tip. It's challenging to have a transaction, especially if somebody smiles and they're pleasant, and they provide a nice service, but there's still no obligation to do so. Because I'm assuming when you got your merch at the concert, they just maybe pulled it from somewhere, were pleasant, and gave it to you. I'm sure they didn't actually like give you any higher level of service.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's just like whatever app. I think it's just truly that whatever app they're using to um to
Do the
process
transaction.
payments. Yeah, it always like it's a default thing, or maybe it's just a required thing that it always asks for tips.
Yeah,
Um,
the article speaks about that too.
yeah. So yeah, and literally whenever prompted, I will tip. And generally like stick to the 20%, and just round that up to a reasonable, or the whole dollar, or nearest dollar, or whatever, call it a day. Um, and if I'm not doing the math well in my head, a lot of times it'll be a little bit more than 20%. Um, but yeah, that's general. Yeah, that's my process or thought
And
on
you're okay
it.
with the fact that you're literally just
Um,
paying more money for goods and services that you didn't before with no additional value?
yeah, 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 yeah. The way I think about it for the concert, like the way I think about that is, I know, um, or I've heard, I guess, that the cost of touring is generally not offset by the ticket costs for the concert that the concert goers pay. So a
For
lot
who?
of the for the bands,
That's not true for all
like
people.
the
That's not true for all acts.
yeah, yeah. I just that's not in from what I've heard, like for the bands that I go to see, the smaller bands, um, the general sentiment that I've gotten is that the uh the merchandise is where they make like a lot of their profit. So yeah, just from that like point of view, I like to support the artists that I go to see. So I know the tips are going towards the artist profit. So that's my thought process there. Like just from a standpoint of wanting to support the artist, and then and I'm I'm not buying their music as well for the most part. I stream now, so
Those
it's
streaming
like
services.
what you say?
So those streaming services.
Oh yeah, yeah. So this is another way I know I can support the artist without buying their music. Not to say that I don't want to, but the streaming is just so damn convenient. It doesn't really make much sense at this point. And then yeah, like anywhere else, again, like the restaurants that I go to, the way I see it, I'm supporting the employees for a restaurant that I like. So so I don't have a problem with tipping, even if it's like, you know, like typically you would think, okay, you would only tip if you had a waiter or a waitress serving you, and like you were sitting down and getting that type of service. But yeah, I still think of it in terms of even if it's just me going in and picking something up, I can still support the employees, support the business. I still want them to remain open, so and have good service. So
These businesses are not going under because Ace is not tipping.
of course not, but it's not a bad thing. It's my way of helping to support the employees and I mean the business less directly, but if the employees are happy, the business is happy. So
If you say so, there's definitely no wrong or right here. Um, how about you, Ghost? What do you think of the fact that it seemed like tipping areas in which you can tip or prompted to tip has increased, but you're not really getting any more or less service or product these days?
Um, I don't know. To me, the way I look at it is I tip for one reason only, and that's to supplement employees' salary, which it's kind of stupid that that's the system, but that's the system. It's kind of been beaten to death, so I'm not going to get into that part of it. But where I will not tip is where I feel like the employee didn't provide any actual service to me beyond their typical job description that they're getting their usual pay for, and B, it's just putting extra money in the company's pockets because they're being greedy. Like for example, if I go to a restaurant, I'm going to tip. If I order DoorDash, I'm going to tip. If I if I pull up to Panera at a drive-through and get some food there, I'm not going to tip because it's kind of a different. There's not too much of a distinction, but in my mind, you work in the drive-through and preparing my meal is literally just part of your job.
Yep.
But providing a good service, being a waiter, being attentive, and all that is providing above and beyond. Plus, I know that if you're being paid, if you're a cashier or whatever, you're getting paid a set rate that's above minimum wage.
Especially these
Whereas,
days, the minimum wage has gone up.
yeah, the cost of everything else has gone up along with it. But when I'm at a restaurant and I'm paying a tip, that's because I know that a lot of times waiters, waitresses aren't being paid like a typical salary, and I'm supplementing that, so it's whatever. But a lot of these times, these companies, the reason that they do it is because of how tipping culture has morphed into something that's expected. And even if they know in their minds that they don't deserve a tip, they'll still ask because a lot of people will do it regard. Like for every ace out there that exists, companies are licking their chops to like damn, we got, and not to call you a sucker, Ace, we got some sucker here that'll just pay us a tip if we put it on the screen, even if we don't need it. Why wouldn't we put
Damn.
it on there? So again, I'm not trying to take a shot at anyone who tips. I'm just coming from the perspective of how a company running a business operates. And if you have a business that has 100 different chains, say 10,000 interactions every day or every week or whatever, I'm just throwing a number out there, and you have 5 people that tip an extra $10. That's
No one tipping an extra $10. Knock it off.
I don't know. I mean, if you put it on the screen and it says $10, Ace might tip that. but
Jesus.
This is wild.
I'll be mostly tongue in cheek here. But if again, let's say 10,000 transactions a day, you got 5% of people tipping. That's 200 people tipping, say $5. That's an extra $1,000 you're getting for literally no extra cost or effort to you, because you're asking for the extra money. And if people say no, it's whatever. But if you do tip, or people do tip, which it sounds like a lot of people will just because it says it to, then the company's rolling in it and they're making even more profits because because people are tipping. So on the principle of it, I give these companies enough money, and it pisses me off whenever I see stuff like that, because it's like you're just blatantly asking for extra where you don't really need it or deserve it. But if you get it, then you're just kind of robbing people. So that's the way I look at it.
No, you make absolute positive facts. And yeah, I don't know if I should feel bad because I'm also one of those folks that would generally just tip. Well, yeah, no, I think yours is a good point. And I think maybe it should be the implored sentiment or rationale that, like, if you are going to tip, it should be because you generally feel as if the service you've gotten is above and beyond a regular just person that works at a restaurant making your sandwich or preparing your food and putting it in the bag. Yeah, I think there are some places that a person will always naturally feel just get like have no issue with, even if it is a franchise. Like I think Chick-fil-A takes tips, and I always want Chick-fil-A to be in business, so they'll probably always get my tip. But
Hey,
at the
yo.
same,
What?
Sorry.
it's fine.
What's wrong with you?
I watch enough Cameron and Mace or shows to I guess I should be more aware. Anyway, yeah, there's some places that are just are more deserving of it, but some places like Subway, yeah, they need to knock it off. Like, come on, you've been in business for years since Homeboy with the big pants has been in business, and y'all been doing fine. Like, don't come over here and ask for tips now. Some of these retail stores that all they do is fold your clothes and put it in the bag. Relax. But at the same time, you know, again, if you do feel inclined, there's no wrong or right answers to tipping. I guess, just make sure you're not super complaining about it, and make sure you are truly comfortable with it, I guess, is the moral of the story. And if you are feeling
Yeah, don't stress about it. Like,
yeah,
that's one thing. I said I always tip, but there's definitely been times where I haven't for one reason or another. Like for example, when the tip is asked for on like the on the receipt, that I feel like less inclined to do, especially if I'm in like a super rush. I don't want to think through
do the math.
the 20%. I'll just write down the cost of the thing and call it a day without the tip. But and yeah, I don't like have any type of negative. Oh, I should have tipped. Like I definitely don't have any guilt or anything like that. The only time I think tipping is, or the only time in my mind that tipping was ever something that is required is and you do have like a waiter, like a
Yeah,
sit
sit
down
down
situation.
restaurants.
You have a
Yeah.
waiter in the office. Like, yeah, no, that's it. So yeah, I don't stress about it. And then the last thing I was gonna say, is, I forget who it was. I was watching some stand up, some clip from a stand up routine where the person was like, he was just roasting some random crowd person in the crowd that said that they worked in a restaurant or something, and they were like, why do you guys say, this is going to ask you a question, and we know what the question is. It's always what, how much a tip is going to be. Why do you do that? That had me dying.
Probably all
Yeah.
psychology.
Yeah, it's a classic salesman tactic. You ask a question that's not going to like make a person feel pressured. You just use the question on the next screen. You can answer it
Yeah,
however
it's
you
going to
want.
ask you a question. So funny.
Yeah. No, I think you said it very well, and Ace, and at the
Sorry, I know we're basically wrapping up, but I
yeah,
got
go
one
ahead.
more quick question for y'all. We're all pretty much we'll tip when required. Some of us maybe when we're not. What about on the flip side? If anyone's a bad tipper or doesn't tip at all, or the only tips they give is don't eat yellow snow. Do y'all have any thought, or would y'all say something if, like, if I was like just an egregiously bad non-tipper and I never ever tipped? Would y'all have a problem with that? Because you said don't stress in the other way. I'm just curious what y'all thoughts are. The
I mean, I don't care
alternative.
if I don't care if somebody else doesn't ever tip, but if we're out together, then I'm going to tip uh, for us as a whole. I mean, other
Well,
than that, like I don't
I
care.
mean that's kind of cheating. Like, let's say we go out to eat and one person foots the bill and the other person is supposed to cover the tip, and they say, "Oh no, I never tip. I'm not tipping." And it's something where it should have been their responsibility, but they're not doing it. You wouldn't
I,
say anything to them?
I think we
I
know
mean, that's not
each
about the
other.
tip though. It's just that they're not paying their portion of anything.
That's
Like,
kind of
No,
I get it, but
I
that's not
see
really
what
the
Ghost is
intent.
saying. It's not really.
Like
I
we
think we know each other enough to know one other person would just take care of it. I don't really think we trust it that much.
Yeah, I'm saying a scenario where it's not about responsibility; it's about them just not tipping ever.
I don't know. I can't imagine myself getting upset about it. Like, just from the perspective of they don't feel that we should tip. Yeah, I don't.
Yeah, I think
I can't
fundamentally,
imagine getting this upset about it. Like,
I think fundamentally, I don't have any issues with people that don't tip. I've known people that are anti-tipping, and they have the sentiment where companies should be paying people what they deserve, and it's not on the person to give supplementary funding to the person that works there. So I mean, if you don't want to, I mean, it is what it is.
Gotcha.
But yeah, I guess it's one of those basic YouTube things. If you don't like to tip, tell us. If you tip, tell us what you usually tip people, and if you don't like to tip, tell us why. Yeah. But anyway, if there's nothing else, we can move on to the next topic.
this is a funny one.